Okay, let's start. Today is May 15th, and we are continue on our reading Feng Youlan's book, A Short History of Chinese Philosophy. So today our subject is Mencius. Okay, and if you read the book, it's on the chapter 7, and the title is called The Idealistic Wing of Confucianism. Okay, so we will continue. Okay, so that's the title. Today we are going to talk about. So briefly about the book called A Short History of Chinese Philosophy. And then that's written by Feng Youlan on 1947 when he taught in University of Pennsylvania. So this one is a concise book, and then I find out this book is, if you search for history of Chinese philosophy, you probably don't find a lot. And in Amazon probably only find 2 books. One of this one, and there's another one which has like 3 or 4 volumes and compile of a lot of academic thesis. So look like that's the only book, reasonably readable book about the history of Chinese philosophy. So so I think this book is so far, okay, I should not say the best, but probably that's the top choice if you want to understand Chinese philosophy. And this is an old book, and go to the meetup page, and they have the free PDF file you can read. On the archive.org, you can read or download the PDF file to read, or you can go to the Amazon and still sell the book. And they have the English version, or another version is English and Chinese together. So I think I strongly recommend get the book, or at least download the PDF file, and I find out it's pretty readable. So here is the total has 28 chapters. So I'm going to go through from chapter 1 to chapter 28. Okay, and each one chapter every week. So right now it's on our 7th week, and we have been through the first 3 weeks. We talk about the basic spirit of Chinese philosophy, background of Chinese philosophy, origin of Chinese philosophy. Then we start with Confucius and talk about Moism, which is the first opponent of Confucius. And then we talk about the first phase of Taoism, and it's Yangzhu. That's last week. And this week we go back to Confucianism, which is the second, so-called the second teacher, second sage, okay, Mencius. Okay, so that's today's subject. And then, as you know, we will take off for 4 weeks, and then we come back with totally different subject. It's about school of names, and you probably never heard about this, but if you think about logician, Aristotle's syllogism, okay, so that's kind of, or somebody want to call it sophist. Okay, so that's the next subject we are going to talk about. So that's back to today's subject. Okay, so as usual, and I divided today's section to 6 parts. Okay, so basically, I want to introduce about the background, okay, during this time, and the person Mencius. And from 2 to 5, basics is talking about Mencius philosophy. And to the end, we are going to do some comparison. Basics, how does Mencius related to Confucius? So that's the today's subject. Before I go this one, I will pause if you have a question. Okay, I'm going to move on. So I always show this chart and just give you an idea where we are talking about right now. Before today, we are talking about this period of time, about 500 BCE. Today, we are moving to about 350 BCE. And this period of time, we call it the warring states. Okay, so before today, we are in the time so-called spring and autumn, Confucius, Mozi, okay, during this time. And then right now, the time change. And the change, I think is significant has a significant impact to philosophy or to the intellectual world during that time. So I'm going to show this map. This one is during the spring and the autumn, and the one with color, this one is about 1/3 area, 1/3 territory of today's China. And then you can see there's many, each color represent different state. So during this time, so-called the spring and the autumn, nobody knows exactly how many states, but we know that at least have 200 different states during that time. Okay, and then when we move to today's subject, we call the warring state. You can see the map change. Okay, it's not so many states, and eventually you will reduce to 7 states. So you can imagine, right? The combination of states, the reduced number of states is no way to be peaceful. They must have a lot of war, a lot of invasion, annexation, all kinds of violence happen during this time. So that's the change. Okay, so eventually, so Mencius, before we talk about when Confucius traveled around the world, so-called the world is around China here, and he was visiting different states here. And right now, during this time, when you travel around, you don't have so many states to visit because there's number reduced eventually to 7. And to the 221 BCE, that became only 1 state. That's Qin dynasty. Okay, we will talk about this later. So that's the change. And to show you how does everything change during this time, I copy a text from, this one is not in our reading, but that's from the record of grand historian 史记 by Sima Qian. We consider as the first historical account. So what he wrote here is in the historical account of spring and autumn. Okay, we know it's between 722 to 481 BCE. Total is 241 years. He count. They have the 36 lords were killed. Okay, we assume it's during the coup, right? And the 50 states were annexed. All right. Numerous feudal lords worked hard to preserve their state, but failed. So that's Sima Qian, the records. So if we make the calculation, you will see the situation is during this period of time, okay, by the number, you will see every 6 years or 7 years, there's one lord that been overthrown and killed. And about 4 to 5 years, there's one small state being annexed by a large state. Okay, so during Mencius' time, there's about 100 years later, you can see this situation get worse. Okay, so if something happened like this, you can expect intellectual, it will not be like Confucius keep talking about the going back to old time. Okay, everybody knows it's not possible to go into old time, and they must have a lot of idea going around here. So you will see their style start to change. How do they philosophize their idea? The method will be different. So here I create a chronological record for, I would say, all the philosophies I'm going to deal, okay, during this period of time. So from the oldest, the Dao De Jing, which is Lao Tzu, and to Confucius Analect, right? And to Mozi, okay? So we talk about during this period of time. This period of time on the first three, we can consider that's the spring and autumn. And then today we talk about Mencius, okay? And then next time we talk about school of name, then talk about school of diplomacy, and Zhuangzi. All this one is on the during the warring state. And then later we will deal with the Gong Sun Long, Xun Zi, Han Fei Zi, that's so-called the legalism. That's the later time. So you will find out their writing style has been changed. If you were here in the previous session, if you read the original text, you will find out this philosophy before this time. I talk about spring and autumn. Their philosophy kind of like a teacher. Okay, the master says something, I say something. I say they are teaching the student. During this period of time, start from Mencius, you will find out they are very argumentative. They are debater. They are, you can call them dialectician, or you call them sophist, because they have many ideas here. So they have to debate. They have to defend their idea. They attack other people. And so you will see it today, and you will see it the next time, and you will see when you read Zhuangzi as a Taoist, different school, but they have the same style. But after this period of time, when China, the total number of states reduced to much less, about 7, you can see the situation get more stable. And their writing is not so argumentative, not so like a debater. They start to write thesis, write essay, because they try to write something as a suggestion to the emperor or to the lord, okay? Or they are thinking about write something for the future. So that's the writing style change. And then today, I hope you will notice Mencius' style will be different. He become very argumentative. Okay, so in today's reader, you will find out it's more fun to read than read Confucius Analects, because Confucius just tell you the truth, tell you what to do. So that's the big difference for today, and for next few weeks we are going to deal with. Before move on, I'm going to, as usual, we need to know who is Mencius for the people who don't know much. Okay, so Mencius is Latinized name, right? Like a Confucius, because Confucius' last name is Kong, so the Westerner call him Confucius, means teacher, okay, or Kong, teacher, Confucius, okay. And then Mencius, since his last name is Meng, so the Westerner, okay, or give him a name, okay, called Mencius. Since we have a Confucius, then and his last name is Meng, then we call him Mencius. So his real name is Meng Ke, and in Eastern tradition usually call him Mengzi. Okay, Zi means teacher. Okay, so that's the name. And here, through the today's presentation, I'm going to use the Latinized name. Okay, Mencius. And he was born 370 to 289 BCE. Relatively, he lived a long life. I think it's about 80 years old. And he was born 100 years after Confucius was born. And if you want to check, he probably 10 years younger than Aristotle. So compared to Mencius, to the Greek, Aristotle could be a reasonable comparison. It's about probably 10 years apart. And he was born in a state called Zhou. And it's a small vassal state adjacent to state Lu. And the Lu is Confucius' hometown. So basics, you will say they are in the same area, okay, but different state, but same area. And Mencius usually considered as the 5th generation of Confucius school. Some people say the 5th generation. We don't have the solid account, but the way to count is Confucius was considered as the founder of this school. And then his youngest, one of the youngest students, Zheng Shen, kind of continue his teaching. After Confucius died, they have 8 different schools, but most important is Zheng Shen, carried by his youngest disciple, one of the youngest disciple. And this disciple was the teacher of Zhi. Zhi is Confucius' grandson. So you know, Confucius only have one son. He died early, and then has only one grandson. So Zhi, and the Mencius study from Zhi, or somebody said Mencius study from Zhi's student. So that's why, you know, some people said Mencius is the 5th generation. Some people said Mencius is 4th generation of Confucius school. But anyway, in the Confucius school, he's the 2nd important person. Okay? No doubt about it. So Mencius holds the title, so-called the 2nd sage. Okay, and then you will ask, what's Confucius' title? We talked about this a few weeks ago. The highest sage, the 1st teacher, 至圣先师. Okay, that's the name reserved for Confucius through today. And when people talk about 2nd sage, that means Mencius. So you know how important of these 2 persons. One is the highest sage, the 1st teacher. That's Confucius. And Mencius is the 2nd sage. And Mencius' mother also important. He will consider as a role model of all mothers. I'm not going to talk about all the story, but you can check from the internet. There's a few stories about that. And of course, there's no historical account to say it's true or not true. But most famous is Mencius was lost his father in the early age, probably 3 years old. And then Mencius' mother is focused on education. So Mencius' mother moved 3 times, okay, to make sure the environment is good for Mencius to study. Okay. So just like today, the parent will find a good school district for the kids. So Mencius' mother being considered as the role model of mother. Okay, so then we talk about book. When we talk about Confucius, a lot of things we talk about the book called 论语, or in English we call Analects. Analect has about 10,000 characters. It carries about the Confucius teaching to the student. We call it a dialogue, okay, but the dialogue is not Platonic kind of dialogue. It's kind of like student ask, what's the meaning of benevolence? And the Confucius said, love other people. Okay, that's it. So very short. It's more a teaching than dialogue. And the Mencius also have a book left. Okay, the book called, well, in Chinese tradition, okay, the book and the philosophy are the same name. So the book also called Mencius, and in Chinese called Mengzi. Okay, so traditionally we have 7 chapters, but each chapter have A and B. Okay, so you can say 14 chapters, but actually 7 chapters, A and B, and total is 3,500 characters, 35,000 characters. So about 3-4 times bigger than Confucius' Analect. And it's a little bit different. Is Confucius didn't know he has an Analect, because after he died and his disciple or disciple of the disciples start to collect what they remember of what Confucius said, and they compile a book called Analect. And Mencius is different. I don't know, he really completed the book or something, but at least at his old age, okay, around 70 something to 80 years old, he stayed to teach, and with one of his students try to write down, okay, what his experience. And then later on, this book become Mencius. Okay, so he has some idea on that, okay, unlike Confucius' Analect. So when you read this text, okay, you will find out first it's kind of extension from Confucius' teaching. But how close to Confucius' teaching? you may have an answer today. Okay, we will look at. Okay, then unlike Confucius, okay, Confucius just teaching. Mencius start to argue against other philosophers. Okay, his arch-enemy, okay, is Moism and the Yangist. Okay, so we talk about Mozi and Yang Zhu 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, look like Confucius is not a popular philosophy during the time. Most popular philosophy is Moism and Yangism. Okay, so just like briefly, just like today's political world, we have the left and the right, this kind of thinking during that time. And the Mencius or Confucius is kind of in the center, and then he has constantly faced the argument. Okay, so that's why his text become more argumentative. Third thing you may find out is the audience a little bit different. When Confucius taught, the audience, of course, his disciple. And in Mencius, you find out the conversation sometimes between Mencius and his student. But his student from time to time will bring up the subject is somebody say so, somebody say so. Okay, it's not like Confucius student just ask the question, what this? It kind of bring the argument here. Another more important thing is a lot of dialogue is happened between Mencius and a powerful feudal lord. Because during that time, there's a lot of powerful feudal lord. And look like Mencius has been able to enter the royal court to have a conversation with this powerful feudal lord, or you want to call warlord. Okay, so that's the difference Mencius from Confucius. So about the school, and if you from the beginning, traditionally we know we said in the early time China had the 6 schools: Ru or Confucianism, Legalism, Taoism, Moism, School of Name, and the Yin Yang school. And the next time we're going to talk about is the School of the Name. Okay, that's cool. And right now we talk about Confucians. Okay, Confucianists, and we already deal with Confucius, and today we deal with Mencius. And in the title by Feng Youlan, call it the idealistic wing of Confucianism. And in a few weeks later, we are going to deal with another Confucian scholar, Xunzi, and Feng Youlan give a title called realistic view, a realistic wing of Confucianism. So he is different than Mencius, even both of them belong to the Confucian school. Mencius and Xunzi are different. And the next time when we talk about Xunzi, we will compare the different idea between Mencius and Xunzi. Okay, so next time we will deal with School of Name, and we already deal with Moism, and I think we will have another chance to deal with Moism because Moism has been very popular during the old time. Even it's not popular or hard, a lot of people don't know, even on today. And the Taoism, we will deal later about the Laozi and the Zhuangzi. That's also very important. So that's the school. And before we go to the, that's just give you a background about the Mencius. This person, his philosophy, and the time he stayed in China, and his position in the Chinese history, and among all the different schools in China. So before I move to his philosophy, and then I will stop here for question, comment, before we really deal with Mencius philosophy. Any comment? Question? Joe, please.
Yes, Jason, when you talk about history, like, is this history all coming from Mencius, or are there other historians who are also mentioning Mencius? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In other words,
yeah, okay, thank you for mentioning this. I know you are interested in history. Okay, so as I mentioned, Confucius or Mencius, they are I think they started. They really have this person. Okay, there's no doubt. Well, you can also question like, oh, is there an archaeology background talk about this? Then which I don't know, but actually I can say it's a consensus. And the way to understand Mencius is through the book called Mencius, and to understand Confucius is through the book called Analects. So I will say that's true. Okay, true in this way. Unlike Yang Zhu, we talked about last time, we really don't know, does this person exist or not? It just pop out this name. Okay, we don't know. Moisen, we probably know there's a person called Moisen, but at least we know there's a school called Moisen. Okay, and the founder is Modi. But which part is the person, which part is his disciple, we really have no idea. Okay, so I think that's the way. And then next week or week after or a few weeks later, we will talk about Zhuangzi, very important Taoism philosopher. The book is real, okay, there's nothing, but we really don't know who is this person. Okay, there's no other record to talk about this person, but the book is there. So I think that's the difference. So in this case, I will claim Mencius and the Confucius are real. Okay, others I have a little bit question mark. So I hope I answer your question.
Thank you.
Any question before we move to philosophy? Okay, before we go to Mencius philosophy, I will briefly talk about Confucius philosophy. I make this chart, okay, to represent, to systemize Confucius philosophy. Okay, so I put Confucius philosophy. When I talk about Confucius philosophy, I totally base on the book Analects. Okay, so I will put it the three branch his interest. One is political philosophy, moral theory, and the philosophy of life. Okay, that's his main concern. His political philosophy basically talking about rectification of names. So the name, if you have this name as a prince, as a father, as a son, as a husband, you have your own moral requirement to fit this role. That's a Confucius political philosophy. His philosophy of life is kind of knowing the mundane of heaven. He is not talking about predestination, but he talking about personal effort. You do the best you can do, but the result will lead to the heaven. Even he never talk about heaven or heaven's will of heaven. He never talk about this one, but he talk about fate a lot. Okay, but please don't take as predestination, this kind of concept. Most important in Confucius philosophy is moral theory. And we talk about in his idea, he has two important concepts. One is yi, we call it ought-ness or righteousness, which we can see as a form of your morality. Okay, and the essence, we use the Western concept as a form and the essence, right? The essence is ren, and in the book translation is human-heartedness, or a lot of times translated as benevolence. Okay, really depends how you are going to do it. And the ren, they have the subjective view or objective view. Subjective view called 忠恕, which is devotion and reciprocity. Okay, and if you take the objective view, which is ritual, and then the doctrine is 孝, or called filial piety. That's built Confucius philosophy. So that's just a review. And then when we go to Mencius philosophy, we are going to see how does Mencius related to Confucius philosophy. So here we are going to deal a few Mencius philosophy. Again, Mencius, this book is very rich. They have a lot of things, and then the example I bring up is Feng Youlan, the author, put in his writing. So you may find, if you read other Mencius, you may say, oh, how come never talk about this important thing? Yeah, okay. Some part I saw important, but Feng Youlan didn't put it in his book, so I didn't bring up. So I would say all the quote I get it is from the book. Okay, so first, I think I would say that's the most important part of Mencius' teaching is so-called the goodness of human nature. Okay, so we will see this thing Confucius never mentioned, and then because Confucius talk about ren or human-heartedness, or you want to talk about as benevolence, okay, good-heartedness, but Mencius start to bring to a different level called human nature, the goodness of human nature. So basically, if we talk about human nature, unless you will say human, well, I think there's only three possibilities. Okay, one is human nature can be neither good nor bad. That means human nature is neutral, right? There's no human nature, you can say this way. And during that time, and during the in the book of Mencius, you will see Mencius has argued with a person called Gao Zi. Okay, because Gao Zi, this person, believe there's no human nature, or human nature is neither good nor bad. Okay, that's another school talking about. Another possibility is human nature can be either good or bad. Okay, so Mencius is in this school, and Mencius insists human nature is good. Okay, that's why Feng Youlan, the author, called Mencius as idealistic wing of Confucianism. Later on, probably 50 years later, then another Confucian scholar, Xunzi, he opposed Mencius' argument about human nature is good. His argument that human nature is bad. Okay, so we will deal with this philosopher later. All right, so Feng Youlan, the author, called Xunzi as the realistic wing of Confucianism. Okay, so I think his idea is Mencius look at the ideal side of human nature, and the Xunzi look at the realistic side of human nature. But okay, you will see okay later. So that's different. And of course, they have another school, another possibility talk about human nature has both good and bad element. So I believe in the text or in Mencius never mentioned this school, but it's reasonable to think about. Some people may think about human nature is the mixture of good and evil. And then I don't have any record of during this time anybody talk about this, but I know in about 1st century in China, there's a philosopher called Yang Xiong. Okay, he is belong to Confucianism and also in the Yin Yang school. If you're familiar with Yin Yang, you can see everything is a mixture of Yin and Yang, of male, female. So it's very reasonable to think about human nature as a mixture of good and evil. And this kind of thinking probably more close to today's psychological thinking on that. So since we are deal with Mencius, we deal with this part only today, okay? And his argument, we focus on Mencius' argument. So let's read the text, okay? That's from Mencius' text. And two things you can pay attention is how does Mencius make an argument? Second is Mencius always argues against somebody, okay, in order to show or make clear about his point. Okay, so here is Mencius and the Gao Zi. Gao Zi is the person talking about human nature is neutral, neither good nor bad. So Gao Zi said, human nature is like water whirling around in a corner. Open a passage for it to the east, then it will flow to the east. Open passage for it to the west, and it will flow to the west. Human nature is indifferent to good and evil, just as the water is indifferent to the east and the west, right? So just like water. So Mencius is going to continue from this metaphor, okay, water. So Mencius said, water indeed will flow indifferently to east or west, but will it flow indifferently up or down? The tendency of man's nature to good is like tendency of water to flow downward. So have this tendency. There are none but have this tendency to good, just as water flow downward. Now, by striking water and causing it to leap up, you may make it go over your forehead, and by damming and leading it, you may force it up a hill. But are such movements according to the nature of water? It is the force applied which causes them. When men are made to do what is not good, their nature is dealt with this way. So, personally, myself, my understanding is Mencius may not talk about human nature is good. He is talking about human nature has a good tendency, okay, like water. And I believe Mencius' purpose, it's kind of not like a thesis or you are looking for some evidence, like, okay, show me, okay, give me the evidence, human nature is good, right? I will kind of look at this one is Mencius' hypothesis than a series, right? Basically, he's talking about water will going down, right? The tendency going, but sometimes you can use force, build a dam, right? Water will stay up, but that's not water's nature because you use outside force to make it up, going up. So he's not like dumb person, say everybody is good. He knows there's a lot of evil person. And his point is humans' nature are good, but when the bad people usually caused by the outside force. I think that's very important to his philosophy. Okay, it's his basic assumption is human nature has a tendency to good. He's not talking about it's good. Even most of scholar or the writing may talk about Mencius believe human nature is good, but personally, I think Mencius is talking about has the tendency to become good. And I think he talked about have the two reasons, right? First, he talked to the ruler a lot. He want to tell the ruler, first, the people are good by nature. Why you have to see thieves, robbers, violent there? Because the environment is not good. And it's pretty easy to understand, right? If you don't have enough food, then you will start to steal, to rob, to create some crime, right? So that's his political purpose. Secondly, he want to promote Confucius' teaching about the moral state. So he will also want to tell the ruler, you can do good thing. Your nature as a ruler, your nature is already good. Okay. So the only thing you need to do just develop this kind of good nature. Then you can do good. So that's Mencius' purpose on that. And we will see more clear later on in his reading. And then, so since you talk about human nature is good, then they come with another very famous argument, so-called in the textbook called Four Beginnings. Some translation called Four Sprout, okay? And then I think the most if you search in the Wikipedia or in the Western philosophy, usually use the word four seeds. Okay, so Chinese call four 四端. Okay, I think four beginnings is the right translation. Okay, so this one is important, but I don't think I have to read all this one, but important here is he used example, okay? He's talking about, he used this example to prove or make his argument about human nature, okay? He said, if a man suddenly see a child about to fall into a well, he will, without exception, experience a feeling of alarm and sympathy. He will feel so, okay, not as ground on which they may gain the favor of a child's parents, nor as a ground on which they may seek the praise of their neighbors and friends, nor from the dislike to the bad reputation. So he give an example, right? So when you walk in somewhere, strange area, you see a child is about to fall to a well, is in danger. Your reaction is to save him, or you will not like, oh, I don't care, right? You will have some reaction, and basically your reaction is to save the child, and you will never think about like, oh, because the child's parent will thank me, okay, or I will get a good reputation from my neighborhood, or if I don't save the child, people will dislike me, okay. So you don't think about this. That's after that. Your first reaction is to save child. And he argued, okay, that's your end, okay, that's a sprout, okay, that's the beginning of a good heartedness coming from. So he's talking about all men compassion. So he preached this one to the Lord, to the ruler, right? He talked about, you have this kind of heart, that's a good heart, and he called it compassion. And then if you have this compassion, then you can have a compassionate government. And then if you have a compassionate government, they were very easy to rule the entire kingdom. Okay, so you may think that may not be true, but that's his argument. And then he used this argument. Then this text is quite long, and then I'm going to go through this one. And he talked about 4 things, right? From the case, we may perceive that heart mind of sympathy is essential to man. That the heart mind of shamefulness, heart mind of compliance, and heart mind of judgment. Okay, so he talked about these 4 different kind of innate feeling. So I think the best way is for me is to just make a table. I think that would be easier to understand instead of read through this long text. I think the better way is I make a table on that. So Mencius argued that the 4 seed or 4 beginning of human nature. Okay, first, 人, okay, translate as sympathy. One way to look at it, you can call it because a human hidden sorrow. Okay, when you see somebody like about to die, okay, you have this kind of feeling, right? And okay, righteousness, and the Mencius call it a shoots or shamefulness. Okay, so you feel embarrassment or shame for something bad. One example, which is not Mencius example, is that would be much later, around 17th century. Another example is Wang Yangmin, a Confucius scholar, caught a theft. He asked him to take off his clothes, and he take off clothes until the underpants he refused to take off. He just used this one to prove, yeah, you see, everybody have the concept of shamefulness, right? You don't have to teach you. You know you have to hide your private part. That's shamefulness. It's innate. And he talked about the ritual, which is important for Confucius. And the Confucius talk about ritual is talking about the ancient teaching, the rule, what's the proper way to talk about. Mencius will be different. Mencius talk about this thing. You don't have to go to the ancient time to read all the text about what's ritual or what's the proper way to behavior, because everybody have the way to declining and yielding, right? You see the old people, you will let the old people go first. That's the nature. You don't have to learn something. Everybody will do this. That's Mencius' argument. Wisdom, right? He talked about wisdom is used to feel right and wrong. Everybody know torturing a baby is wrong, right? Everybody know help other people is right. So you don't have to teach. That's in your nature. So that's very important in Mencius teaching, which is very different, okay, from Confucius teaching. If you only take this point of view, you will find out the Mencius similarly talking about the same thing as Confucius taught. But Mencius fundamental is different. He starts from human heart, not unlike Confucius. Confucius will argue from the ancient great time, 500 years ago. Confucius say, oh, that's the beautiful time, wonderful time. Anything we should do is learn from the past. That's the way we have to do. Mencius just go to that because the environmental has changed. Okay, so he knows it's no way to argue the old time is good. He has to argue from the human heart. So he make Confucius very humane. Let's put this way. So that's the most important part of Mencius philosophy. And I will stop here before I move on to question, comment, or anything you want to add on about Mencius philosophy. Madeline, please.
Yes, thanks, Jason. I was wondering in the fourth one on the table, wisdom, was there a single Chinese word for that or several different things?
Yeah, same thing, 智. Okay, so usually you translate as knowledge, wisdom, knowing. Okay, so really depend on where you use. And then Confucius, I have to say, if you let the Confucius and the Mencius face to face, they may argue, this word, And in Confucius, 智 usually means knowledge, study, okay, this kind of thinking, right? And the Mencius put 智, okay, this word as judgment. He called 是非之心, the heart of right and wrong. Okay, so that's Mencius' definition, even it's the same Chinese word. Other comment, question? Myra, please.
And how is different from Confucius philosophy?
You mean how does it different from Confucius philosophy?
How, yeah, like it looks the same to me.
Yeah, okay. I would say looks the same. You use the right word, look the same, because 人, okay, Confucius mentioned 100 times in his 10,000 character book, okay, using 人 and the 义, okay, a lot of time, okay. 礼, 智, all these words are very common words in Confucius teaching. That's why you can say look like the same. But here I'm going to say different is Confucius, because you teach this all moral word. When you teach the moral word, you got to tell people how and why, right? So Confucius why? Confucius' answer is ancient time. Okay, let's make it simple. It's ancient time. Okay, because old time they do it this, that's good. And the Mencius take a different way. They say that's in your heart. Okay, think about yourself. He give an example, right? You see the kids about to fall to the well. You feel sympathy on that. That's the 人. Okay, so that's the difference than Confucius. Okay, so I hope I answer your question. Okay, but on the surface, of course, they are the same. That's why he called the second sage, right? And Confucius was the first sage. Fei Wu, please.
Jason,
Yeah.
did Mencius talk about filial piety and 5 social relationships?
Yes, he talked about this. Yes. Okay. And then I'm not going to include filial piety today because Mencius, Feng Youlan didn't mention in his writing. But he also talked about talk about human relationship. I will deal later. Okay. Yes, but filial piety didn't mention this one. But he talked about filial piety because that's important in Confucius school.
And Mencius views on 5 social relationships was the same as those of Confucius?
I will say the same, similar, the same. And that's also important. Okay. And I should say filial piety also mentioned because they all, later on we will talk about on this part when we talk about, this part, okay, I'm going to deal with this part about love. Okay, so that's another argument. So I will answer your question, okay, during the next section. And
Thank you.
if I don't, and then you bring up, please. So let's move on. Okay, so right now that's his Mencius foundation, right? So right now we have to ask one question, which Confucius probably never answer, is why be moral? I think that's a very legitimate, okay, question when any moral philosopher tell you about or moral teaching, right? Then you always can ask, why do I need to be moral, right? Okay, they must have some purpose, okay, to be moral, right? So that's the interest part from Mencius. And I will say that on the philosophy point of view, it's an improvement from Confucius, because Confucius never answered this question. So this text shows Mencius' concern about why need to be moral. Okay, I'm going to read this text. Okay, Mencius said that whereby men differ from birds and the beasts is but slight. Okay, Mencius talk about human, just another animal, right? That's not much different. We have head, we have hand, we run, we eat, right? We do the same thing, right? The mass of people cast it away, whereas the superior man, or you call 君子, preserve it. Okay, so the slightly different, the small difference, okay, only the 君子 or superior man, a superior man or the gentleman keep it. Most people don't pay attention. So you're going to mention Sun, the sage king, clearly understood the multitude of things and closely observed the relation of humanity. Okay, back to Fei Wu's question, right? Human relation, okay, relation of humanity is the reason to be moral, okay? So he means the Sun, right? Sun follow along the path of Ren, human heartedness, and Yi, righteousness. These one are two important teachings from Confucius. He did not need to pursue Ren.
It was Rama.
I remove him, okay? So
Sorry, Jason, I have a question. I want to clarify my earlier question.
yeah.
So did Mencius also talk about how to govern the 5 social relationships, like obedient to the ruler and to parents, and wife to husband, and how to deal with friendships, etc.? Did he talk about those 5 social relationships?
Yes, he talked about this, but I'm going to talk about is the difference about obedience to your ruler, which Mencius is different. I believe when Confucius had sit side by side with Mencius, they will argue on this one. I can see he is different than what Confucius talk about. We will deal with this one later on this one.
Sorry, I have one more question, Jason, about Confucius.
Yeah.
Did Confucius, maybe he didn't directly say it, but did he teach that rulers could do no wrong and the parents could do no wrong?
No, that's later on. Okay. But you
Okay.
can say he implied, and of course we don't know, So.
Later on by who?
Well, usually, in my opinion, is in the Neo-Confucius movement, okay, and about 10th century, 11th century, or 12th century. That's Zhu Xi. That become, today you see whatever Confucius teaching usually is after Zhu Xi, which is 12th century. Okay, that's 1,000 years later. So
Okay,
right
thank
now
you.
we are talking about, so that's very important for you. I understand where are you coming from, but very important to understand, and for most of people who already know Confucius teaching, is we need to separate what is Confucius and Mencius taught and what is you received today, because this period is over 1,000 years or 2,000 years. So there's been a lot of people add on and add on. So my purpose here is not tell everyone Confucius is good, Confucius is bad. The reason I'm here is to reveal the text and let you know what's this text telling you. You may agree, you may disagree, but at least you should know it's different than what you receive today. So that's the purpose. Okay, so basically, I think the last line is difficult to understand, but I think it's important. He's talking about he did not need to pursue Ren and Yi, right? He just follow along the path. I think that's the one is very important. Let's take Ren and Yi as the highest moral standard. And the Mencius talk about the sage kid. Sage kid will do the moral, okay? So he's talking about the sage kid. Sun is not enforce this moral standard, okay? Sun is just follow this moral from his heart, because that's the human nature. You don't need outside force to enforce this one. You need to nurture it, okay? To let your good heart grow. You don't use outside force. That's Mencius' teaching. It's important here. And this text also reveals another philosophical idea in Mencius, right? To answer why be moral. Like when we talk about Yangzhu, okay, we talk about Moism. Moism talking about why need to be moral, because it's good for the people. Okay, there will be peaceful. But if you think through this, the reason is utilitarianistic, right? They have the purpose on that for the benefit of people. But Mencius talking about be moral is different, okay? Different from the animal, okay? So to Mencius, the important thing is human nature. And human nature, this nature is different than animal. And then the be moral is make sure you are different than animal, okay? I think that's Mencius talking about, which is very different from other school. So here we can continue, okay? So here's his argument, okay, against the other two schools, okay? So you will see much clearer about how Mencius argue, okay, with other school. The sage king stopped governing. He's talking about today, there's no more sage king. Feudal laws wage their powers, and the scholars practice sophistry. The philosophy of Yangzhu and Modi are popular now. So here he's talking about we introduced Modi and Moism and the Yangzhu last week, right? People believe the teaching of either Yang or Mo. Okay, look guys, that's right wing and the left wing in today's view. And Yang's principle is by myself, okay, and which means no ruler. Okay, so Yangzhu, you can consider he talking about, that's called individualism. Okay, so basically everything is by myself, self-sustained. So in this case, he doesn't need a ruler, okay, no lord. Moism, Mo's principle is impartial love, or sometimes we translate as all-embracing love, which means no father. Okay, basic Moism is talking about you love kind of like Christian teach, right? Love your neighbors, yourself, right? So if you love other old people like my father, so that means you have no father, because your father is no different than other people's father. So that means no father. So not recognizing one's ruler, or one's parents is no different than what beast will do. Okay, so Mencius is very concerned on this one. If you do either like Yang Zhu or like Modi, right, you will become no father or no ruler, no boss. Then you have no different than animal. And then he will try to scale the people, right? So if the principle of Yang and the Zhu not be stupid, and the principle of Confucius not set forth, then those perverse speaking will delude the people, okay, will confuse the people and block the path of Ren and the Yi, which is the morality, and the benevolence and the righteous, which is Ren and the Yi, are blocked, and beast will lead on to devour man, and man will devour God. So here, well, of course, we should take this as rhetorical, right? He tried to scare you, like say, okay, see, if you have no ruler, no parent, then what's different than the animal, right? Look at the animal, they eat each other. Then you will start to eat each other, right? So look at the world today. It's like people killing each other, and then that's Mencius' argument. So he's give himself as a mission, right? I'm here to defend the doctrine of formal sage and oppose Yang and Mo. That's Mencius' argument. Again, these two schools. Fei Wu, please.
It sounds like at the time, public opinions were polarized. Like there is far left, which was Mo,
Yes,
and far right, Yang.
that's
And
right.
then Mencius presented a central ground view, which
Yes.
he believed was the Confucius teachings.
You are exactly right, but be patient with the next one.
Okay.
If you call him is in the center, he also refused. Okay, so he's a great debater. Let's put this way. Okay, he is a great debater. Okay, so even you disagree with his philosophy, but I think he debate well. Okay, let's put it this way. So here, Mencius continue. Yang's principle is for myself. I think Fred suggests me to change to by myself. Okay, by myself. Even though he might be able to benefit the whole kingdom by plucking out a single hair, he will not done so. Okay, so that's a little bit like straw man argument. Okay, Yang Zhu didn't say exactly like this. Okay, Modi, okay, principle was impartial love. Even he had to damage his whole body in order to benefit the whole kingdom. He would not hesitate to do it. I remember Joe asked this question, right? So what's wrong with that, right? If you damage your whole body to in order to benefit the whole world, he would hesitate. What's wrong with that? And the answer is this: Yang Zhu, for yourself, okay, you don't save the world. You even don't want to sacrifice yourself. Of course, it's wrong because you need to help other people. What's wrong with Mozi, right? You sacrifice yourself to save the world. What's wrong? The problem is, yes, a person do that, you can say he's great, but you have no way to ask everybody do this way, right? It's not practical. So one is damaging, one is not practical. That's why Mencius is against these two. Okay, I think that's the important part. Just we have two hands up. Let me finish this part, and then I will take some questions on that. So Zimo, he mentioned about this one. hold the median between these. Okay, by holding the median, he is neither the right, he's nearer the right, so he's almost right. Stay in the middle. Okay, kind of answer Fei Wu's question, right? Zimo is another scholar. Zimo said, not Yang and not Mo. I'm going to stay in between. Mencius said, yes, he's very close to the right thing, but he continued. But by holding it without leaving room for exigency of circumstance, it becomes like they're holding their one point. I think this part is difficult to understand, but what he meant, Mencius means, is you stay in between. It still has a problem, okay? Because you need leave room, okay, to adjust by the circumstances, okay? The point here is Mencius is against principle. If we look at the moral theory, right, we can roughly say that the three kinds of moral theory. One is deontology, everything based on principle. Another one we can call it consequentialist, right? Based on the consequence, like utilitarian. It's good for somebody, right? Deontology is stick with principle, thou shalt not kill. Okay, that's a principle. We just stick with that. Okay, Kant is a typical example of the deontology. Mencius philosophy or moral theory is virtual based. He talk about human. He talk about your feeling. He talk about your nature. Okay, so he against Yang Zhu and Modi based on consequentialist argument because you don't see the consequence as a moral. He also argued against Zimo because Zimo want to stay in the middle, which is a principle. Okay, he's also against this kind of deontologist. Okay, Mencius is want to go back to the human heart in the so that's he want to do, but he also want to differentiate himself with Modi, who also talk about human heart. Okay, so the next slide we will talk about this. So let me take a question from Joe and Fei Wu. Joe, please.
Yes, just quickly, Mencius' father died early and his mother raised him. So doesn't that sort of go against everything he's saying? I mean, he learned everything from his mom.
Oh, no. Okay, he doesn't have everything from. Oh, he doesn't have what? Let's put it this way. His father died early. Okay, I will assume like 3 years old, and the family was poor. A mother educated him. I think it's just basic education, and then he studied from Zisi, which is third generation, Confucius' grandson. Okay, so he learned everything from Confucius' grandson. Let's put it this way. Okay, so do I answer your question, Joe?
Okay, that's good enough. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and the interesting is both Mencius and Confucius talk about filial piety, especially Confucius talk about you should mourn for 3 years for your parents. But you know, Confucius' father died at 3 when Confucius was 3, and his mother died when Confucius was 17. And Mencius' father died when Mencius was very young, but I don't know when his Mencius' mother died. Their parents all died early. Okay, so that's put this way. Okay, Fei Wu.
I don't think Yan's principle was for myself. I think he was an individualistic anarchist. He believed if everyone could self-govern and achieve inner peace, then there was no need to have rulers. Yan didn't suggest that he wouldn't help others. What he suggested was his help. When his help wouldn't make a difference, then he wouldn't do it. I think Yan's view is correct, except humanity hasn't reached to that stage yet because we are still we still have reptile brains. Our brain capacity is only utilized like 10%, and we are not fully human yet. And and a lot of people, most people need to be governed. They're not as independent as Yan was. So his view was, let's say, idealistic, and More's idea was more like, how to say, delusional, because he thinks by sacrificing individual needs, he can save the world, he can benefit the whole kingdom. That was delusional, and also they impose that kind of view upon others, and that's like, I don't know whether he did, but if they require other people to do the same, that's like mob-like.
Okay.
Sorry, mob-like. Just like
So you were not here last week. Are you here last week?
I was here, but I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, so okay, Yang Zhu, we discussed this last week, and then I would say personally I agree with your idea of Yang Zhu, but unfortunately there's no text to support it. Okay, let's put it this way. And then when we deal with the Taoism, this idea will coming out. Then we can discuss on this part. Regarding to Moism, we are going to talk next because Moism is important in Mencius' mind, right? About when since we talk about Mencius, even he's a middle way, but it's not stick with a principle as a principle. So here we need to talk about the concept of let me see, Confucius love. Okay, so we know Ren benevolence is one of the important teaching for it. I should call it the essence of moral in Confucius teaching. So Confucius, when the student ask, let me see. So when student ask Confucius, what's the meaning of Ren? Confucius' answer is love others. That's a very simple answer. So we're going to read this text. This text is from Mozi, it's not from Mencius. So kind of answer Fei-Wu's question about what's Moism talking about. But here, that's a dialogue, here this one. We can see how other people, Moism view, from the other side, how does Moism school view Confucian love? Since both Moism and the Confucian talk about love, what's the difference? So Wu Ma-zi, that's a Confucian scholar, told Mozi, because Mozi tried to teach him Wu Ma-zi, and Wu Ma-zi said, I'm different than you, because apparently Mozi is teaching all embracing love, love others as yourself, right? I cannot practice all embracing love. That's Mozi's Gen I, sometimes called universal love, impartial love, right? So his example, the Wu Ma-zi, the Confucian, that can represent what's the difference between Confucius love and the Moism love. He said, I love the men of Zhou, better than I love those of Yue. So Zhou, Wu Ma-zi is the same state of Mencius. So, and Yue is a faraway state, faraway state, right? So he loved the Zhou more than the people of Yue. I love the men of Du, that's his own state, better than I love those of Zhou, that's neighboring state, right? I love the men of my own district better than I love those of Du. I love the member of my own clan better than I love those of my district. Okay, I love my parents better than I love the man of my clan. I love myself better than I love my parents. So basically, the idea Uma's represent a Confucian love is I love my parents more than I love my clan. I love my father more than I love my uncle, right? And I love my uncle more than I love the people in, let's say, Los Angeles, right? And then I love people in my state, right? In America, okay, more than I love the people in Mexico, right? And I love people in Mexico more than I love people in France, right? Because it's far away country. That's, he's talking about Confucian love. So we call it degrees in love compared with all-embracing love. So in Mencius talking about the Junzi, okay, the superior man in his relation to things, love them but have no feeling of ren. Okay, that's important teaching, right? And in his relation to people, he has ren, okay, to the people, but no deep feeling of family affection. It's called qin. Okay, so here Mencius make, unlike Mencius make it clear, right? They have the three levels, right? You have affection of your member of family, and then you extend it, okay, to the people. That's ren, human heartedness. Then you have the love for all things including foreigner, animal. In today's world, we will say, oh, I love my family member the most, and I love people in general, and that I love animals, okay? So become an environmentalist. So that would be Mencius' idea, which is different than Moism or embracing love. So here, he has argued against this one. I'm going to skip this one, and then I'm going to talk about this one, about Mencius' ideal world. Since this one, Mencius, that's become very famous about Mencius' idea, right? His ideal world, right? He talked about treat the aged in your family as they should be treated. Okay, remember the Chinese read 老吾老以及人之老. Okay, this word 以及, some people translate is love, treat my old people as treat the other old people as I treat my own elders, right? It's not this way. 以及 means extended, right? So I think this one is a proper translation. Treat the aged in your family as they should be treated, and extend this treatment to the age of other people's family. Treat the young in your family as they should be treated, and extend this treatment to the young of others' family. So that's Mencius talking about, and then that's the difference between, if you want to do a rough comparison between Moism, Confucius, and Mencius, you can see Moism will talk about you love everybody equally. Confucius talking about love, okay, but his reason of love is based on his ancient teaching, okay. This one, he never make it very clear on that. And the Mencius is very clear. It's a degree in love, and it's your nature, right? You see something happened, you will have a natural reaction on that, and you will naturally love your family. Then you just have to extend this love to outside people. Then that's his philosophy about this. So that's about love, about in the this one. And I will skip this part. This one is a Confucius teaching. And then I will move on to Mencius' political philosophy. Okay, so I stop here for question, comment. If you probably see Mencius' argument is more clear compared to Confucius. And of course, it would be a little bit more controversial because he touched the point more realistic instead of like Confucius, always talk about something high level. So it's nothing to argue about it. Okay, so I'm going to move on for the next part. So please pay attention on this one. I believe, let's say I believe Confucius will probably disagree. Okay, so let's put it this way. Okay, even most of the people say that's what Confucius will agree, but let's pay attention on this. Okay, so after all Confucius and Mencius, all the Confucian school, okay, they all have this kind of idea is you develop from morality to politics, right? Politics is start from moral. That's their basic understanding. So, okay, here it explained, okay, I think it's also Feiwu's question about the relationship. Here talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 relationship. So here, okay, so that's the text Mencius talk about the relationship. So Mencius' idea is this, okay, you have a love, right? That's innate, you're born with that. Then you have a relationship, that's also nature, with your parent, with your kids, with your spouse, with your neighbor, then with your friend. That's the relationship. And then the politics, the state, is to preserve this relationship. Okay, so in this text, he is going to answer the question, why do we need a state, right? Before we talk about moral, we answer the question, why do we need to be moral, right? In the Moism teaching, would say the moral basics is, well, how can we make people moral, right? In Moism teaching, or the later in legalism teaching, how can we make people, you use outside force, use laws. That's typical situation even today, right? Okay, and then all religion, ghost, heaven, that's Moism is teaching about this way. That's outside force. Mencius' idea, okay, is human nature. You are naturally want to be good. You just developed it. Let's answer the question, what make people moral? And right now, Mencius is going to answer the second question, why do we need a state? Okay, that's become the philosophy of politics, political philosophy. So let's read the text. Mencius said, if men have satisfied their hunger, have clothes to wear, have lived at ease, but lack good teaching, they are close, they are close to birds and the beast. So if we just satisfied with your daily life, you have no difference than animal. That's his big concern, right? The sage was distressed about this and appointed Xie, okay, as an officer, instructor, that's his prime minister, to teach men the basic relationship of life, okay? So that's the difference between human and animal. Father and the son should love each other. Ruler and the subject should be just to each other. Husband and the wife should distinguish their respective sphere. 夫妇有别. Okay, so you talk about men and men have men's place, women have a woman's place, right? And elder and the younger brothers should have a sense of mutual precedence, okay? And between friends should be have a good faith. So I think that's answer Feiwu's question about what Mencius teaching, okay? That's the text Mencius teaching, okay, about this. So his answer, Mencius' answer about why do we need a state? Very simple, okay? Because human relationship, right? Because the state have preserved this human relation between father and the son, lord and the minister, husband and the wife, senior and the younger, and the friends. This relation have to preserve. That's why we need a state. Therefore, we can be different than animal kingdom. Okay, that's his reason. Unlike Moism's teaching, right? We will say that's good, but Moism's argument is benefit to the people. And the Mencius seems to have a different idea. He's talking about we need to be different than animal. And then in order to be different than animal, we need to preserve this kind of 5 human relationship. And that's why we need a state. Then it comes with a critical question. This one is between dialect between Qi Xuan Wang. Okay, Qi Xuan Wang is a powerful feudal lord. Okay, so that's a question. It's difficult to answer from. So the King Xuan of Qi asked, okay, was it so that Tang banished Jie and that King Wu smote Zhou? Okay, so need to some historical background. He's talking about the dynasty, ancient dynasty before Mencius time, right? They have the state, they have the dynasty called Shang, they have the dynasty called Xia, right? Then they have the dynasty called Shang, the dynasty called Zhou, right? He talked about Tang is the founder of Shang, okay? He banished the ruler of previous dynasty, King Wu, okay, Confucius considered as a sage king. Actually, he smoked Zhou, who is the last emperor of the previous dynasty. So here mentions the King Xuan of Qi, okay, as a critical question, right? You talk about the relationship between lord and the minister. So look at the history, right? Tang was the minister, okay, and he's supposed to follow his lord Jie, okay, but he banished him. King Wu, okay, is a sage king. He was the minister of Zhou, but he smote him, okay. So what are you talking about? Is that true? Mencius reply, it's so in the record. He doesn't want to answer. He just said, oh, yeah, that's right. In the book, it says so. So the king asked, may a minister then put his lord to death? Okay, so that's the typical situation happen everywhere, right? The minister kill, they have the coup, kill their lord. And the King Xuan of Qi bring up the historical example. And the top question is King Wu, right? Wen Wang, right? Confucius keeps saying he is the sage king, okay, our role model. But you know, he killed, okay, his boss, okay. What say you? Okay, Mencius answer, okay, that's interesting, okay. He said, he who robbed Ren is called a robber. He who damaged Yi, okay, is called ruffian. We call a robber or ruffian a mere fellow. Okay, here, I like highlight this one, a mere fellow, okay. I have heard of killing a mere fellow whose name was Zhou, okay, but I have not heard of killing a lord Zhou. So this one would be, I would say, anti-Confucius. Let's put it this way, right? Confucius said the name, okay, if you are king, you should behave like a king, okay. Mencius' point is this: you are a king, you don't behave like a king, then you don't deserve the name called king. You are a mere fellow. So in the historical I read, right, I never see King Wu kill a king. King Wu just kill a guy. Okay, his name is Zhou because he doesn't deserve this name. So you can see Mencius kind of like tweak what Confucius teaching on that. Instead of say, okay, Confucius say, yes, he should be act like a king. But Confucius didn't answer. How about my king, okay, my president, my boss, didn't behave like a president, right? And what should I do? Confucius didn't answer this question or try to avoid this question. But Mencius start to bring more critical answer on that. He said, kill him, right? Because he doesn't deserve this name. So this way would be more different than that. Okay, so you will start to see the difference. And then Mencius, since he tweak or change this name, right? So he invented a new name called Ba, okay, hegemon, right? So he started to continue on his argument because the King Xuan of Qi asks this question has a purpose because he's a powerful feudal lord. He's thinking about invade other country. He want to devour other country. He has his ambition. Okay, so Mencius, of course, knows, okay, why King Xuan of Qi asks this question. He's just not, this king not just interested in Confucius philosophy. They ask this question because they have a purpose. So Mencius knows. So he immediately continued, right? He said, he who uses force in the place of virtue is called Ba, okay, it's called hegemon. He who is virtuous and practices human-heartedness is Wang, which is sage king. So he separate, okay? He know the king is going to occupy other country. He start to tell them, okay, yeah, if you are tyrant, we don't respect you as a king. But if you use force to occupy other country, okay, we just call you hegemon, okay? We are not going to call you king because when one subdue man by force, they do not submit to him by heart, but only outwardly because they have insufficient strength to resist. You force people to follow you. But when one can follow by virtue, they are pleased in their heart and will submit of themselves as did 70 disciples to Confucius. He bring up Confucius. He say, look at the example. Confucius has 70 disciples. That's in general we believe, right? Have 70 disciples. And these 70 disciples, Confucius never used force to ask these 70 people to follow him. And we know some of the Confucius disciples have a higher ranking in the aristocratic society. They still follow Confucius. Does Confucius use any force? No, because Confucius has virtue. He's a virtuous person. So Mencius bring an idea, right? He talking about the Wang and the Ba, sage king and the hegemon, right? So sage king is use moral standard. He is a moral king or virtuous king. Then people will agree with him and follow him. Unlike Ba, which is a hegemon, who use force to enforce other people, go with him. So that's the difference. Okay, so you can see how Mencius start to different or go away from Confucius' teaching about rectification of name. On the surface, they are talking about, yes, you still have to fit the name. But instead of change the person to the name, Mencius start to give the different name or different person. Okay, so I think that's important in Mencius' philosophy. Of course, we can talk much more about this, but I think I will skip here. I will stop here and for a few minutes, then I will go to another very important philosophy about in Mencius, which is Qi. Before that, let's take question, comment. Barbara, right?
Yeah, I guess it sounds to me like the language game that he's playing there
Oh,
is
yeah.
he wants to say that you have to live up to the role of the king, or else we can't call you a king.
That's right.
And then yeah, and then once we can't call you a king, then you need to what? Be punished for not
Yeah,
performing
then,
the role?
then everybody has the right to punish you, right? Because you are not king, you're just a guy, okay? So you are robber, we catch you, right? So that's the way. Well, we can argue is right or wrong, but you can see the difference from Confucius, right? Confucius, the name is eternal, it's not going to change, right? But Mencius start to say, you did not deserve name. And the next time, okay, we talk about the school of names, okay? I'm glad that we pick up the concept name here. Because the school of names, sometimes we call it debater, sophistry, whatever. But they are going to focus on this name. kind of answer, Barbara, your question, right? Oh, sounds like you randomly changed the name. Yes, okay. How does the name relate to the reality? That's the next subject we are going to deal from different school.
Well, I did have another question. And how does the name relate to heartedness?
I don't
Um,
have an answer this one. Okay. I
Okay.
don't have an answer on this
All
one.
right.
I know in ancient Chinese, the important subject is this. What is name? What is reality? Right? Confucius is a teacher. Confucius is reality, is a real person. Teacher is a name, right? So they have the relation. Socrates is a philosopher. Philosopher is a name. Socrates is a reality. So that's the all school in ancient China. They are dealing with. Okay. Fei Wu, please.
I think the reason that both Confucius and Mencius emphasized filial piety was because they both had fathers died young, maybe mothers too, and they probably had a very loving mothers, and so they had a very idealistic view of parents. I think all parents were like that.
Well, you can think
Their
this way.
fathers.
I'm sure Mencius' mother could be, well, I'm not sure. It's very loving. I'm not sure, could be tiger mom. I don't know, it's just okay, but that's a good point. Okay, so let me move on this part. I really cannot miss this part about theory of qi. Okay, that's Mencius' invention, let's put it this way. And I would believe today in American, I don't have to explain what's the meaning of qi, right? Everybody heard about qi gong and that thing. Okay, so that's Mencius start to deal with. Okay, so let me see. Okay, let me talk about this. So I think it's formula in the book called Mysticism. Okay, so start have the flavor of the mysticism. Okay, let's talk about, okay, this one. Let's start from here. Let me jump here. Probably this one is more important. I don't want to miss this part. Okay, I think let me start from this part. So-called awe-inspiring qi. That's the translation I prefer, and the formula translated as the great morale. Okay, I think we should translate as qi, awe-inspiring qi. That's what I'm doing. So that's I think Gong Sun Chou. Okay, Gong Sun Chou is one of his disciple. Okay, ask. Okay, there's a conversation. I think they talking about Gao Zi, the other philosopher. Okay, so after Mencius' long conversation, okay, sounds Mencius is pretty good, and you can see his students. My master, surprise, how well you are better than other people. Okay, that's the student ask teacher, right? Mencius said, I understand words. I'm good in nourishing my awe-inspiring qi. Okay, that's the words that come out. 浩然之气, if you read Chinese, all right? I translate as awe-inspiring qi. Okay, so that's a strange situation, right? He said, oh, sir, why you are better than other people? He said, I understand words, and I'm good in nurturing my awe-inspiring qi. That's a surprising, right? So Gong Sun Zhou started to ask, what do you mean awe-inspiring qi, right? Okay, qi as a concept has been exist. We don't know how long, but in Chinese, ancient Chinese already have the concept of qi, and then it's difficult to translate in English. But even today's Chinese, but qi is something, spirit, something, right? In the weather, in the outside, and I think Mencius is the first person to bring this metaphysical concept or nature thing, okay, qi, and give the qi a moral meaning. Okay, So his answer is very interesting, right? He said, Mencius said, it is difficult to explain it. Okay, so this qi is exceedingly great and strong, being nourished by straightforwardness. That's another moral word called straight, okay, or 直, without being hurt. It can grow to fill up the heaven and the earth. It also needs righteousness, which is yi, and the Dao, okay, to grow. Otherwise, it starves. Okay, so here he is talking about the qi, okay, which before Mencius' time, it being considered as metaphysical concept, right? That's the natural force, okay, or human force. You have this one, but Mencius start to give moral meaning of this qi. He said this qi is organic, right? And this organic qi, instead of you need to eat something nutritious, exercise to cultivate your qi, he's talking about this kind of moral qi, right? You need righteousness, you need straightforwardness, you need Dao to nurture it. Otherwise, it will die. If this qi grow, it will grow huge, bigger than myself, will go to as big as to the heaven and the earth. That's Mencius is talking about. It is produced by accumulation of intended righteous deed. It is not to be obtained by incident righteous act. If one's conduct doesn't match the heart mind, the qi will stop. Okay, so you have to intentionally do good thing, and your qi will grow. If you don't do it, just do it by accident, it will start to shrink. So that's the Mencius is talking about. I don't know how do you feel this one, but we probably should not put too much judgment on Mencius' argument, because I don't know how serious people take during that time, but I would say at the 10th century in the Song, Northern Song dynasty, about 10th century, right? Zhang Zai, he's the person start to bring this one and build the entire philosophical system and based on qi. And he is from Mencius, a quote on this one, all inspiring qi. And then when we deal with Northern Song, Neo-Confucianism, this one become very important. Yeah, this one. And we can see it start from here. So here, Mencius start to, okay, in Mencius, reading Mencius is much more fun than reading Confucius analog. Okay, analog is just another teaching, and Mencius has another story. Here is a famous story, right? Here talking about let us not be like the man of Song. Song is a small state. For some reason, during that time when they want some talk about some stupid people, some funny behavior, they talk about people in Song. Okay, there was a man of Song who was grieved that his growing sprout was not longer, and so he pulled it up. Having done this, he returned home looking very confused, and he said to his people, I'm tired today. I have been helping the sprout to grow long. His son ran to look at and found the sprout all withered. Okay, so a farmer see his sprout not growing fast enough, he start to pull up. But of course, we know it's wrong. And I think this story has been told in even today, all the Chinese society. Okay, but I think most of the kids take this one, including myself, take this one as like, you need to be patient, right? You have to wait, right? But Mencius' purpose here is this, right? You have the natural good heart. Human nature is good. Then you have the qi can grow. It use inner force to grow, just like the sprout. It will naturally grow. You don't use outside force to pull up. Okay, so I think that's what Mencius want to teach, and that it connect with good heart. Okay, human nature is good. Connect with the qi, the all-inspiring qi, and talk about moral cultivation is that it organically grow. Okay, not using outside force. Okay, so lastly, and then Mencius will continue to mention, right? When he talk about this, he will say, people are all alike. The sage and the we are the same in height, okay? In accordance with Gong Sun Long, okay, said, right? Okay, he quote from Gong Sun Long. That's what we will deal in the next chapter, just like Barbara mentioned about the net, because during that time, there's a lot of people, they deal with argument. So Mencius seems like quote Gong Sun Long School of Net. He's talking about if a man make hempen, make a sandal, right, without knowing the size of people's feet, you know he will not make them like basket. Sandals are all like one another because all men's feet are like one another. So the argument, the story here is, we know, right? The shoemaker, they make shoes. They don't measure people's feet and they make shoes. They just make shoes. Okay, the difference just in size. Okay, they're all the same. You will not make a basket. So Mencius' point is all humans are alike. Okay, just like the shoes, right? They have some big feet, big foot, small foot. That's it. Okay, they all alike. So in this way, you can extend this one, so-called all men can be sage king, right? One of the Cao Jiao asked, right? It is said all men can be Yao and the Sun. Sun, that's the ancient sage king, right? Confucius will not say people can be like ancient king. That's like almost not possible, very high standard. And Mencius will be different. He said the Tao of Yao and the Sun, the ancient king, was simply the filial piety, xiao, and the fraternal duty, ti. Okay, they just respect their parent, love their brothers. That's it. Okay, wear the clothes of Yao, repeat the words of Yao, and do the action of Yao. You will be just like Yao, right? That's the sage king doing. He wear his clothes, speak like what he speak, act like he act. Then you are the sage king. If you wear the clothes of Jie, Jie is a tyrant, repeat the word of Jie and do the action of Jie, you just like Jie. So you are a tyrant. And of course, I think Mencius' conversation, when you talk about you, basic, he is talking to the ruler, talking to the Lord, right? So that brings a very different concept than Confucius' teaching. He's talking about everybody can do this. So this concept becomes even more important in the Neo-Confucius movement because during that time, Buddhism already in China, and the Buddhism, especially the Zen Buddhism, talk about Buddha heart, and everybody can achieve the Buddhahood. So here, in the later part, in the Neo-Confucius movement, the all men can be sage king, okay, become important at the time. So it starts from here. So we can see the important part here. And then let me quickly draw a conclusion here about the compare Mencius and Confucius, right? So as beginning, okay, we can see Confucius talk about political philosophy. Okay, he talk about rectification of name. But in Mencius, right, he start to change the name, right? He distinguish, okay, if you don't behave, you are tyrant. And then if you use force, you are hegemon, right? Only you become a virtuous king, then other people will follow you. Then you deserve the name called king, right? So this part, he similarly same as Confucius, but he start to make some changes. Moral theory, basic on the surface, right? 义, 仁, 忠, 恕, 礼, 孝. Okay, that's all common words in Confucius teaching. And also full of these words in Mencius. And the difference is this. Confucius start to talk, the reason of this, doing this in Confucius' point of view, that's ancient sage king teach us. The Duke Zhou, okay, he set up this moral standard. So we shall follow this one. And that's the good thing to do. Mencius start to change. He talk about that's all because the goodness of human nature, because you have this good nature. So you will develop this one. Last, about the philosophy of life, right? Confucius, we know he will work hard, even though the result would not be the way you like. So-called knowing the mandate of heaven. It doesn't mean you be lazy and because it has been predestined. It means you just work hard as you can, but forget about the result. That's Confucius' teaching about how to live, so-called the philosophy of life. And the Mencius start bringing some concept of qi, and he called all-inspiring qi. So unlike Confucius talk about you have the duty to do something, that's your job description to do something. Mencius start to talk about that's the qi you have, and you have to grow your qi, and your qi can grow as big as to fill up heaven and the earth. And then how to grow it? You have to purposefully doing good thing, doing the right thing. Use moral to fit your all-inspiring qi, and then you can grow. So that's the difference between Confucius and Mencius. But in general, okay, they are the same. We can say they are the same. You can, in a way, you can say Mencius extend Confucius' teaching to a different level. Okay, but if you look at the detail, they do have a different, and that's up to you to decide. You know, they are talking about the same thing, or they are talking about different thing, and that's another thing we can talk. So I will stop here for today, and then let's have some discussion or question or mention. Okay, so anyway, so any comment, question, Madam, please.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. That was really spectacular.
Thank you.
In this era, would there have been any kind of belief in the afterlife or the immortality, the soul, among the people who he was promulgating his philosophy to? Because otherwise it's kind of a harsh thing to just, you go along, you do the right thing, you align yourself with the good chi of heaven, and then no one knows what happens after you die. And so if your life is bad and you're doing this anyway, then there's no reward, or how does it work?
Well, I don't know, you know, in the to that time, you know, I don't know, but I know Confucian school is even I can bring out hundreds of criticism about their philosophy. But one thing I have to admit, right? That's in the early time. They probably the only school. They never bring God, afterlife, and they still able to teach moral. Okay, that probably is their specialty on that. Let's put this way, you know, and that's what I can answer to your question. And of course, it's hard to believe, right? During the ancient time, people don't believe the superpower. People don't believe after death, right? I think that probably common in all culture, right? And the Confucius or Confucian school, probably the only one talking about teach moral without bringing God or afterlife on this one. Even Kant have to bring the existence of God and the immortality of soul, you know, in his moral, right? So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jason.
So
And
any,
maybe
go ahead.
so maybe that's why it hasn't worked teaching morals in China, because
well,
there is no God and higher power involved and afterlife, etc.
That's another thing we can spend a lot of time to discuss, right? Why is that? You know, and some people will say, yeah, that's because the teacher is good. Some people may say, oh, that's the problem because that's you have the centralized government to enforce this one. They have many ways to discuss, but you know, here my purpose again, I want to reveal what's the original text, what's the Mencius teaching about this. And of course, I feel insufficient today about Mencius, because Mencius has a lot of things, okay, to talk. And then I just picked the text which being mentioned in formulations writing to bring up. But he has more story, to talk. Other comment? Question?
Maybe China needs a new religion, which is a combination of God, afterlife, and Mencius.
That's
Then
another.
maybe that will work.
So we probably not discussing this one here, but yeah, that's everyone can think about it and then have your own idea, right? Madeline, please.
Yeah, actually, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Okay, I will let you have the last comment. Let me bring up a few things, that's kind of homework you can think about, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, this was it. I remember.
Okay, so Mencius talk about 仁义礼, let me see.
Okay, so
let me give me like 2 minutes to you.
Sure.
Okay, so Mencius talk about 4 C's, right? 仁义礼智, I translate this one. Okay, sympathy, shamefulness, compliance, and judgment. Okay, and so you can say it's 4 cardinal virtue, right? So if you go to Greek, right? Platonic virtue, Republic, Book 3. Okay, talking about wisdom, courage, and temperance, right? Temperance belong to the class of iron, it's a producer. Courage belong to soldier, or you want to call it artillery, that's a silver. Gold is ruler, guardian, that's wisdom. And if all society together, you achieve judgment. That's 4 cardinal virtue. And somebody will say, no. Republic is not talking about republic, a state. We're talking about human soul. Okay, so your body, okay, you should have the temperance. Your spirit, they have the courage, right? And your brain, your mind, you should have the wisdom, right? So that's your soul, tripartite soul, okay, tripartite soul. And overall together, you will create a just, okay? So that's Platonic, right? Aristotle, at the same time, also deal with this 4 cardinal virtue, right? So book 3 talk about bravery, is between cowardice and the rashness. Okay, temperance is to control your to resist the happy, right? You can and prudence, okay, so-called bravery is deal with the hardship, and temperance will deal with the happiness, right? And the prudence, or you want to translate the wisdom, I think the pronesis is probably the better way to do it, practical wisdom, to make a judgment, right? And the overall society is justice. So people all talk about this. And if you search from the academic paper, you will find out a lot of paper talking about how to connect, okay, these 4 C's with the Greek thing. Okay, people say, oh, because the fortitude is the same as yi. Okay, justice is 仁. Okay, wisdom is wisdom. Okay, and blah, blah, they have many ways to connect. And then I suggest you can read it and have your own thought. I don't think you should do one-to-one match on this case. In this case, but you can find that they have a lot of paper talking about they are talking about the same thing, and then try to differentiate. So that's the thing I would like to say. And Madeline, you have some final words?
Oh, nope, that was great. I was just going to ask about the ancient Greeks.
Yeah, I think that it's easy to think about ancient Greek, and I believe there's no fixed answer about how these 2 related each other, right? But I would say this one is your homework if you are interested, right? So you can start to contemplate how to draw the line between Greek cardinal virtue with Mencius 4 C's. Okay, that's good exercise for everyone.
Jason, can you show the Plato slide again, please? Thank you.
So you will find the slide in the website. Okay, I will in the meetup page. You go to the you will click the one. You will see the spreadsheet and the PowerPoint. I always put there. Okay, if you need one, you just let me know. So that's the Plato's book 3. Okay, Republic. We talk about this. So ancient Greek is in the Christian time is also add I think 3 more, right? Faith, hope, and love. Okay, become 7 cardinal virtue. So we can talk about virtue all the time, all the way through. But Mencius talk about this. So last comment. Again, from next week, I'm going to take 4 weeks off, and then as a summer vacation. Okay, so and then June 22nd, back to the School of Name. So basically, we're done with Confucius. Okay, so then we have more fun to do, and usually Confucius is difficult, not because they talk about moral, and it's difficult to talk about this. So anyway, I'm glad most of the people still stay awake, I assume. So thank you, everyone. And I'll see you in about a month. So
Thank you very much, Jason. That's brilliant.
yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Have a good
Jason.
break.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. See you.
Bye.